Krishna, everyone. So today the plan is to conclude mantra 5. There's one particular slide which was put by Radhe Shyam Prabhuji. So that's one slide we will try to cover, but let's have a quick recap and then we shall resume to mantra 5, and today we will conclude it. So this is based on all the purpose provided by Srila Prabhupada ji. Let's have Mangalacharan take the blessings from Acharyas and the Lordship. Ajnana-timirandasya jnana-janashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Guruve namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuda Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatha Vitantam Sajivam Sadhvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Paramami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaeva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshitarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gurudev Maharaj ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Jai Jai Shri Radha. Hare Krishna. So, Shri Īśopaniṣad, as we started the very first invocation mantra, Om Purnamada Purnamidam, the Lord is complete and we have emanated from the Lord and we are also complete. Verse 1, Īśavasyam concept that we should get attached to Krishna and that will automatically, gradually detach us from the material things which are temporary. And the whole benefit of getting detached from temporary is that we will always remain happy. And detachment doesn't mean that we will just stop all our dealings with the material world. No, we are still living in the material world. We are still serving in the material world. We have that realization within us that everything is material except Krishna and Krishna's energies. Then verse 2 is that how we can attach to Krishna, that how can we keep ourselves in Krishna consciousness in anything and everything we do, from the day till evening, in the night, we could keep everything Krishna consciousness. And in the third verse, if you won't follow this rule, then what will happen? So if you think about it, we know the driving, and in the verse 2, as long as we follow the rules and regulations, everything will go good. The driving is there to serve us. We can reach many different destinations. But if we don't follow the rules and regulations on the road while driving, the punishment will be there. Punishment is not there for us, but punishment is there for those who don't want to regulate themselves. And we can understand that's for our own benefit. Not only the drivers who are driving, but even those drivers who are next to those dangerous drivers. So the punishment is not basically to punish anyone, but punishment is there to regulate everyone. And this is the material nature. Anything, if we like food, if we eat too much food, then the punishment will happen. The fatty liver, obesity will come. And of course, if somebody smokes or drink, then there are various diseases. Now, those diseases will come to those who will break the regulations. As long as we keep ourselves regulated, that's it. Then we can help. And of course, when we are talking about Krishna consciousness, if we just attach ourselves to Krishna consciousness, then material world, we will get detached automatically. Again, detachment doesn't mean that we will leave our family, we will leave dealing with anyone. No, we will actually be able to serve even with much more enthusiasm. We will do a nectar of devotion after Shri Īśopaniṣad, which has been written by Rupa Goswamiji, who is one of the Shad Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis in Vrindavan, who founded many temples. So Rupa Goswamiji founded many temples in Vrindavan as well. So Govinda temple is there, and he was the one, and he is the most prominent out of those 6. And the nectar of devotion, in Hindi we call Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Sorry, Updeshamrit, nectar of instruction is Updeshamrit. Instruction is Updesh. Nectar of devotion is Bhakti. So it's Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. And in Sanskrit, basically, Srila Prabhupada translated it into English. And there it says that how a devotee, a bhakt will be engaged in devotional service is Nishthan, Utsahan. So full of enthusiasm and determination. These are the qualities of a devotee when devotee is engaged. And certainly we can see many devotees when we go to the temple, or even now and then. So all the classes we'll do, all the volunteers, all the speakers are volunteers, and they are full of enthusiasm. Now they don't get anything in return. So Chaitanya Charitamrita class happens, Bhagavatam class happens, Bhakti Shastri class happens, Bhakti Vrikshas happens. Any of those classes, there are so many classes, even in the temple and outside temple. All the teachers, all the speakers, all the preachers, they are just doing volunteer work, and they're full of enthusiasm. So much so that I was listening to a lecture this morning where one of the devotees was saying that he was an engineer student, and his best friend was associated with ISKCON, I think in Chopati in ISKCON. So he took his friend to Chopati, to the temple. And in the morning in Mangala Aarti, well, it was actually Guru Puja, which is like around 7:30, 7:45 in the temples. And everybody started dancing. And the way usually, so raise your hands if you have ever been to an ISKCON temple, raise your hand and just dance for the Lord. And you see others dancing, and so this devotee who was giving the lecture, he said, the very first time I went there, my friend started dancing, and I thought, what he is doing, he's embarrassing me that my friend is doing it. This usually happens to the teenagers. And brothers and sisters, they usually say, what are you doing? You're standing next to me in public and you're doing this. You're embarrassing me. And this is what Prabhuji said, that he felt it. He said to his friend, you are embarrassing me. What are you doing? Stop it. He said, why? This is a temple. You also dance. And he was very, very conservative, very reserved. And he said, no way. And then he saw other devotees. Then he mentioned one particular devotee who is now a sannyasi. He was a brahmachari then, but now he's a sannyasi. And his name is His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj. And Maharaj ji been here in London Temple. We have met him a number of times. He's so polite. And he was a brahmachari then. And when he started dancing, then this Prabhuji who was giving the lecture, he said, when I saw him dancing and how much bliss he has on his face, he said, I didn't realize when I started dancing as well. I just raised my hands and people think dancing, but I was just moving here and there and I was so blissful. And when everybody stopped, I felt like, why? Why did you stop? And then even when I left the temple, the whole week, I thought about it, that when the next Sunday will come back and I will go back again and I will get associated with these devotees. So what we say, then when we attach to Krishna, then detachment automatically happens, which means, if another analogy, if you think that if we are stepping on the ladder, so while we are climbing, then if we go, let's number the rungs, the steps on the ladder. If it's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, if let's say I'm right-hander, so maybe right-legger as well, never noticed it, but I'm thinking now, if I need to climb, then I will put my right leg on step 2, right? Or maybe let's say start from the ground floor, so I will put my right leg on step 1, and then my left leg is still on the ground level, which is 0. Then I will lift my left leg and it will go on step 2. And then again, the right leg will go from step 1 to step 4. And then I will keep doing it. Now, if you think about what I'm doing, is that I'm lifting my leg to go to the next step or the rung of the ladder. I'm just moving upwards. My focus is moving upwards, lifting my leg and putting to the next step. But what I don't realize, that automatically I'm also leaving the previous rung behind, previous step behind. So I'm not saying, okay, from the left one, I will pick my leg from the, if my left leg is on the step 1, that I'm picking that I'm going to put that on 3rd step. No, it automatically happens. And this is what we say when we are attached to Krishna consciousness activities with devotees. Then material things, gradually we withdraw them. And that's why we realize that if we think about it, things which are material, they are temporary, they are sharbhangur, they're going to go away anyways. And they're spiritual, they are eternal, full of bliss, full of consciousness. If a devotee spends more time in spiritual activities, the mind, the consciousness is spiritual, needless to say that that devotee will always remain happy compared to those who spend most of their time in material things, which they know that most of the time they don't have control over. For example, another colleague was saying about the Wembley. Oh, somebody lost who wasn't supposed to lose. Now, no control there. We spend half an hour just feeling so sad about that devotee. Well, I said devotee, for that player, right? So if you think about it now, at the same time, if we discuss any of the spiritual story, now that it's a great sport, one of the player lost, of course, somebody gonna lose anyways. Then discussing that, how it's going to improve our life. But discussing the qualities of the devotees of the Lord, we can get so much, and this will enhance the consciousness in me right now, not after death, right now. Day-to-day dealings will improve. If we read Parikshit Maharaj, if we read Dhruv Maharaj, Prithu Maharaj, Amrish Maharaj, Gajendra Moksha, Bhagavatam is full of these great stories of great devotees of the Lord. And these are spiritual stories. They're eternal stories. 5,000 years back, they were there, and 5,000 years later, they will be there as well. These Wimbledon players, they were not there 20 years back, and certainly they won't be there 20 years later either. So this is what material life is. It's sharbhangur, it's temporary, and most of the time we don't have control over this. If you think about this body, we don't have control over our heart, our liver, our kidney. Of course, what we can supply to them, we can. But how they operate, Krishna has made that as a mechanical machine. We can just take care of it by supplying good things to them. So this is what we say, that we need to, the whole focus should be attachment in Krishna consciousness. Our consciousness should be in those things rather than thinking or speaking ill about someone or negativity. Then we will always be happy, or we will see the level of happiness will go up, up and up. So this was the first one. The second segment we saw where the verses 4 to 8, that Ishwar, the Lord, cannot be understood by spiritual vision. And within 4 to 8, we saw that these are the 18 verses of Shri Īśopaniṣad. From mantra 1 to 18, these are the divisions. So there are 5 different groupings. Under each grouping, there are subdivisions. So between 4 to 8, we understand that it's very, very, very hard to understand Krishna. And I say hard, but here Srila Prabhupada ji says is inconceivable. Like we can't even think of that. Now we have experience in our own life we can think about. If I would have said to my granddad that there will be a time when people will be able to see each other on the mobile phone, I bet he wouldn't, he will not able to, because even those days mobile phones were very rare. So thinking that you can see someone there right now, live, it's very, very, very hard. Going somewhere, following the Google map, GPS is so close. Not that GPS wasn't there, but GPS was not there in everybody's handheld mobile phones, which they are now. So these are inconceivable. So our consciousness, our intelligence is not great enough. Now, of course, the materially we increase our consciousness almost on a daily basis. We read a lot of history to get better. We read a lot of chemistry, physics, bio, and commerce and the arts. In the material things, we keep increasing and enhancing our knowledge, which is great. But what we should not forget that until unless we have the spiritual foundation, doesn't really matter how tall our material success goes, there is always a risk that that tall material success could fall down at any time. And that's why it's so important, not only for us to have the spiritual foundation, but to provide that to the next generation as well. And within verse 4 and 5, we have seen verse 4, and today we are going to conclude verse 5, which is tad ijati tad naijati. So again, we have seen this verse before. This is again the inconceivable features of the Lord, of the Ishwar. So remember, this is Shri Īśopaniṣad, so everything has been said about Ishwar. That, right, okay, we will see different qualities. This is what Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji has put together in terms of categorizing the paragraphs of Srila Prabhupada ji in his purpose. And we have seen absolute truth, 80. So this is the name of the Lord, absolute truth, which has been mentioned in Upanishads. Brahman is another word, otherwise absolute truth is the one which has been mentioned again and again. So absolute truth is not illogical. So Krishna, the Lord, the God, Brahman, is not illogical, but translogical, which means it's not illogical. It might be illogical for us at the moment because we are not developed. Our consciousness is not enhanced enough. So that's why we use the word translogical. It's not illogical, it's translogical. It's beyond our logical understanding. And then we say, let logic be our minister, not master. Minister is someone who advises, right? But the focus is on the king. King has the power to follow minister's advice or not, right? The wisdom is there. So the minister, the logic should be minister, but not the master, like a guru, that, okay, I've said this, to do this. No. So even if things are logical, we should not say we should do it because it's logical, because those good things could be bad. Again, if the things are illogical, we should not discard them thinking, oh, we don't understand, so it must be bad. No, it could be and we know initially the way we did, all the humans are full of 4 different defects. Right? So and then what we should do, in the previous verses, we have seen the mother of the child tells the father, or yes, mother of the child will tell the child that this is your father. Similarly, the scriptures tell us who is our father, who is the Lord, who is absolute truth. So we need to understand that. So secular God has been another word. These days, a lot of, I will say, just a generation before us. So this is how I perceive that the generation before us and the generation before us, maybe our grandfathers, they were still associated with the Vedic culture, but the generation before us, they got disconnected. Of course, it was a gradual process. And these days, if we see that generation, and of course our generation as well, they usually say, oh, well, everything is same. Everything is same. And that's what we call secular God. But especially coming from Sanatan Dharma, because in Bhagavad Gita, all different routes are given. But we do need to understand all different routes get to the same level of bhakti. And this is what Krishna has confirmed, that among all the routes, bhakti route is the best. Among all the yogis, Gyan Yogi is best. Among all the Gyan Yogis, the Bhakti Yogi is best. So this is how we understand. And that, of course, there are many other examples. We have seen them. What logical is, the synonyms of illogical thinking. So this is what happened with Srila Prabhupada once, that somebody said to something to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada said, well, I must be the Queen of England then. And the person said, oh, you're not. I said, well, that's what I'm saying. You can think whatever you want, but the truth is absolute truth. What we know is relative truth. If somebody who hasn't seen the Queen of England, somebody else might able to portray wrongly, but somebody who knows who is the Queen of England, that person will not get bewildered. And this is the difference between what we call conditional souls and realized souls. So the liberated, realized souls, why they are always happy? Because they have seen the truth of material world. They have seen the promises, these sense gratificatory things they do, right? All the marketings, all these advertisements, they propagate on the basis of false promises. Oh, you get this cream, you will get so beautiful. Oh, you got to watch this. If you haven't watched this, if you haven't been there, that's it. So I've met many friends. So another friend of mine who been to Wimbledon, he said, oh, Wimbledon is great. We need to go to Wimbledon. And he said, I've been to all others. I didn't go to final. So this time I managed to get the final ticket. And the final, the prizes itself are extraordinary. But after that, I met him and he said, it was great. And I said, okay, how was the atmosphere? He said, the great atmosphere. I said, of course, it got to be because it was final. And how was the ground? He said, when you think about the ground was the normal ground. It's not any different than any other ground, of course, because it's Wimbledon. Then they always keep it at a higher standard of maintenance, but otherwise it's just a normal ground. And I thought, well, so do you think what you paid for it? He said, I won't do it again. And I said, well, so why did you do it once? He said, maybe it was one of those things I wanted to tick. And when he said that thing, then it reminded me that how many of us, we do these things. Like, oh, I've been there, that's it. I just wanted to go there just to be there, just done and dusted, that just to say that I have done it. And we do that a lot of times just for the sake of it. And this is what we say, material world. Without thinking much, we just do, and we get engrossed in material things. Now, this is just another example we have seen where how to understand without context. So a doctor will say, I need to cut off your hand. And we say, well, cut off your hand? No, it's bad. You're a bad doctor. Of course, if the doctor will explain, if you won't cut off your hand, then the disease will spread the rest of your body. And then you're going to die. So it's your hand versus yourself. Then you say, you better cut off my hand. Right? And then when you put the context, then we understand how true the things are. So this is what we say, that a lot of times we don't understand things from the Shastras because we don't understand the context behind it. We see it says this and it says that. And my personal example, when I started reading, so I read all the 18 Puranas and I read a lot of Upanishads, and I thought it doesn't make sense because it says this and there, it says that and there, and it's contradictory. But later on, when I got into Sampradaya, I started asking questions from those who have read it wide and far. They explained, and when they explained, I revisited the text, and then I understood, yes, it is the context. It is the context. And now, if you just take any other example, for example, somebody, let's say university example, somebody will go to the maths department and say, who's the head here? And you might point towards the head of the year, and then maybe head of the secondary, and then maybe the head of the maths department. But then there would be a headmaster. Right? So there are so many different heads. At one place it will say this is the head, at other place it will say this is the head. But then we need to understand the context it has been said. When we put all these things together, then we can understand how things are. So for example, somebody who says, I'm a great follower of Lord Shiva, I'll say, great, because Brahma Puran and Vishnu Puran says that Lord Shiva is the biggest Vaishnava. And I said, well, have you read Shiv Puran? And the person says, no. I said, I don't understand. But if somebody says, I'm a big fan of Sachin Tendulkar, well, hopefully that person watches all the matches of Sachin Tendulkar or Sehwag or Dhwani or whoever is very great these days. Then you would watch those matches. If you are a big follower of a Hollywood or Bollywood star, then you will watch those movies. But when we are big followers of the Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, then why don't we read their scriptures? Because those scriptures are going to tell us more about our great Lord. And when we read about those lords, about the scriptures, then we understand the message they are giving to us. Otherwise, the prayers we do, we have the poster, we have the statue, we have the deity in the temple, and we just go there and we ask for more and more things like the beggars, right? Which is not a bad thing to do in one sense, because children can always ask from the father, right? But then we do need to understand that, is that kind of relationship we want? If most of us are parents, and if we see we have those children who just come to us whenever they need something, when we ask them to do anything, they don't listen, they don't study, they don't follow, they don't do anything we say to be a great human being, a realized, a conscious human being, but they always come to us just for asking things. What do you think as parents we will get it? But don't we do that? We visit the temple on Janmashtami, on occasions, and we just ask for things. When things go down, then we say, oh, things going down. And sometimes, of course, another example we was doing, we do need to understand that this is not what bhakti is all about. We have seen all that, and this is the mantra 5. So what it mentioned in the Sanskrit, that Krishna, the Lord, the Absolute, is near, by the same time is very far, is able to walk, by the same time not able to walk, is inside me and at the same time not inside me, is here and is everywhere. Now, how do we understand that? How come somebody who is near could also be very far? We have seen the example of sun. Sun is far, but sun's energy is near, right? So sun is very far, and let's say sun doesn't walk, but still sun's light moves. So basically what we're trying to say here is, again, the context comes into picture. Otherwise, it will be very hard for us to understand that Krishna is there. Who doesn't move? Krishna is there in the spiritual world, but everything here is rotated, is moved by Krishna's energy. Krishna's energy. Even we, Krishna is inside us in the form of Paramatma, and Krishna is outside in the form of, well, the Brahman is the soul of existence, but Krishna is the personality as well. And then Krishna is here, Krishna is everywhere, because everything is sustained by Krishna. It's not that Krishna is only on the left, not on the right, because everything on the right is also, the basis it says, that is Krishna, right? We have very briefly, we saw the deity worship. So this is one thing being mentioned by Srila Prabhupada ji in the scriptures. So if anyone has any comment, any compliments, anything to add, any question, feel free to just raise yourself at any point. But we have seen a lot of people, especially from different religions, they say, oh, deity worship. What's the point of deity worship? So yeah, we have seen the great pictures. And now if we have these pictures in our home, when we see these pictures, these paintings, they will help us to be in Krishna consciousness, don't they? And this is evident why these pictures are so important, why deity is so important, right? When we take the mischievous children in the temple, they behave there relatively compared to how they misbehave at home. They behave there in the temple. Why? Because the atmosphere is around. But imagine if we able to reproduce that atmosphere at home, that our home will become like temple. The consciousness is of Krishna consciousness. We are, whatever we try to do, we are trying to enhance our consciousness to be what our Shastra says is the purpose of our life to be, right? And then it says God cannot appear as matter. A lot of people say God cannot be in the soul, in the deity, in the statue. Now, so we say that God is not only there, but of course God can take any form, because if God can't take form, then we are limiting God. Isn't it true? If we say God cannot be there, well, it's God. By definition, God can do anything. If God has decided to be in the deity, then God can be in the deity, in the statue. Why not? And of course, there are many of those references given, and lots of those beautiful deities, which again, when we see, we get to that level of consciousness, which improves us to get better and better. And then Prabhupada explains, and then Chaitanya Prabhuji gives the naming as well, that it's not that any deity we just get it from anywhere and then we put that through. So there are three different types of deities. One is Jad Maya, like a statue anyone bought. So many Western disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they didn't know and they just used to buy. So one Mataji just bought Jagannathji. So yesterday we had Jagannathji's Yatra. Amazing. If you haven't seen that, there are many live YouTube feeding from yesterday. They must be available even now, so you could follow. Yesterday was the Jagannath Yatra in Puri, and many other places going to happen as well. In London also going to happen, I think in September. There are various. There is one in Birmingham, one is Manchester also. But any statue, if somebody buys, that statue is just Jeremiah. It's just a piece of article. That will also give the benefit because it's Lord. But then Manomaya is when somebody understands what that statue is. For example, somebody bought Lord Buddha for someone, and the person doesn't even know what Lord Buddha is. But of course, from the picture you can see, oh, it's a bit relaxed. You know, people put that in the garden and put a bit of water on it. It's very relaxing. But when somebody who is from Buddhist culture will come, for them, maybe because they know the Buddha, they can connect to Buddha. Similarly, taking the picture of the Queen. If somebody knows Queen, somebody met Queen, then that picture itself is a symbolic representation. So Manomaya is where the mind is associated with that picture. But the next is Chinmaya. Chinna is life. That in that deity, so the pictures, the deities we have, these are the deities, the statues in the temple. These statues, there's a word which says Prana Pratishtha, which means through the Vedic hymns and the mantras, the priests, they have requested Lord to come and bless and be there in those statues through their energies, right? So Krishna and Radha would be there, and devotees believe that they are there and they are living, right? So Krishna and Radha, they are there in those statues, which means these statues, these deities, they are the lordship, they are non-different than the Lord. So there are three different ones. One is just the statue. Second is the symbolic representation. We know what the statue is for and we have respect for that. Third, we know this is not the statue, but this is the Lord himself manifested in the statue for us, right? Then of course somebody said that, well, what kind of powerful Lord that is when somebody can come and break that. Of course, this has unfortunately happened in many occasions in different times, especially the time of Arabic invasion in India. Then a very beautiful analogy being provided that, for example, there is an elephant. That elephant is huge, but because of the love and compassion, if a child is there who wants to sit on the elephant, an elephant will sit down so the child could reach on top of the elephant, right? Then the greatness of the elephant has not reduced, the height of the elephant has not reduced, but elephant has just gone down because of compassion. So the power of the Lord in the statue is not, the purpose of the Lord is not to emphasize the power the Lord has while the Lord is there in the statue. The purpose at that time is that Lord is expressing his love, his accessibility, that he's approachable to everyone, just like this elephant who goes down. It is a need to, if somebody will see a child sitting on the top of elephant, what the person might think that, oh, this child must be more powerful than the elephant because the child is sitting on top of elephant. No, we need to understand the elephant is full of compassion, that elephant led that child. So the purpose is different. Purpose is different. So the purpose of the scriptures, if somebody burn the scriptures and say, well, these are scriptures, they are nothing. The purpose of the scripture is not to be fireproof. The purpose of the scripture is to provide wisdom, because the Lord manifests different potencies and not always omnipotency through all the forms. So when Krishna will come in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, right, then the purpose is to provide the knowledge, the Vedic knowledge, the wisdom. And of course, we have seen when we offer food to Krishna, and this is one of the blessings. If we can't do anything for anyone else, we can at least share prashadam. Of course, whatever we cook at home, we should always give it to Krishna. We should offer to Krishna, and then we should keep. This is the very first and simple step to be humble, to bring humility among ourselves and the next generation. That it's not that the children should not think, oh, my father is so clever, smart, that he's earning so much and giving us all the comfort. We should always bring back to our children that this is for. I'm getting my knowledge from someone else. This is what Arjun had realized. If you think Arjun fought and he thought he fought, but when Krishna at the end said, Arjun, could you take my queens from Dwarka to Hastinapur? Then local villagers, they defeated Arjun. Same Arjun, same Gandhi, same Rath. Then when Arjun reaches back to Hastinapur and met his brother Yudhishthir, he said, Krishna cheated me. I always thought it was me, but it was Krishna who was next to me, and because of that we won Mahabharata. Otherwise, I didn't have the capability even to win over those Gopalas, those villagers. This is the realization of Arjun in Srimad Bhagavatam. This incident is recorded. And of course, now this is a great story as well. Another analogy. And all these analogies are great because we can think that how we cannot understand, if we just use our logic, how our logic is sick these days, especially because we get everything from media. Media could make someone starve. Media could make someone fall down. And we just trust everything we hear and read in the media. It's amazing. So now in this story, so one of the teacher said to his student that God is everywhere. God is everywhere, right? And So of course, God is there in everyone as Paramatma. So when this person comes home, he says, God is everywhere. He was contemplating. God is everywhere. Wow, God is everywhere. And then he saw a rat in his house. He said, God is in the rat as well. He started praying to rat. He started offering things to rat. And he saw God is everywhere. God is in the rat. Rat is the God. And then what happened? Then he saw one day that the rat was running because cat was chasing the rat. And he thought, cat is chasing the rat, so cat is more powerful than rat. And then he started offering things to cat, and cat was the god. Until, of course, he realized that dog is chasing the cat, and he thought, dog must be more powerful. And then he started praying to dog until he saw his wife who was beating the dog. And then he said, well, it must be my wife who's all powerful. And then he started praying to his wife. And then one day he got angry and he made decisions. And then he realized, well, I'm more powerful than my wife, so it must be me. He started praying to himself. And this is what happens when we try our own limited logic. Now, of course, this student, this disciple, never went back to his guru that you gave the statement that God is everywhere. So can I pray to rat as well? Shall I put rat's picture on the altar? He never went back. And this is the whole purpose of having a living guru. You have the guru and you go and you do question and answers. You have Diksha Guru, we have Siksha Gurus. We ask questions, we discuss things. Don't just take things as they come along. So we can understand how one simple thing could be bewildered. Now the flags itself is another example. Just like we saw the deities, but deities, they have the symbol, the respect. Now imagine if the government of England or government of India will decide to change their national colors. Well, they can. They can pass the referendum and they say, well, here we go. From today, instead of red, we will have orange. Or maybe in the Indian flag, instead of orange, we will have red. Now the color of the flag will change. And whenever we see the color, don't we feel that those patronizing feelings, they rush through us? But when the flag color will change, what will happen? Those patriotic feelings will still be evoked in our heart? It depends. And that's how we get attached to the deities. When we read about deities, when we understand deities, the more and more stories we read about deities, we get attached to them, we get associated with them. We offer things to them as part of our family. Anyone got any question or any comments on anything we have seen? Anyone would like to share any realizations, perhaps? Right, okay. So as I said, today we will conclude. So in last few minutes, this is the connection between 4 and 5. So these two slides, these are from Radhesham Prabhuji from Pune. And so mantra 4 explains that the Lord cannot be understood by mental speculations. Now, mental speculation is just the example of rat, cat, dog, wife, and myself. Mental speculation, you are just sitting and we are thinking, if this happens, that happened, this happened. Oh, it must be this way and that way. But if you think about all the liberated souls in our Vedic culture, they were experimental. They would sit and they will experiment. They will say something, they will experiment again. All the yoga moves we have in Ashtanga Yoga. Don't we just believe that Ardha Machendrasana will take care of the liver and kidney. No, go and do it. That Gomukhasan will open all the pores of kidneys. Oh, you got to do it to realize it. Just saying it, oh, I know, I belong to Bharatvarsh where yoga is great and there are so many yoga asanas and they do this. Well, that knowledge will not be good for us. Well, of course, we might be able to bring somebody closer to yoga. And if that person will follow the yogic exercises, then that person will get benefit, not us. We got to do it. So it's not the mental speculation. Srila Prabhupada always said that Krishna consciousness is not the armchair philosophy. It's not that we just sit, put our arms, relaxing on the chair and do the debates. No, it's a devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada always translated bhakti, not just devotion, but devotional service, where physically we serve. And of course, there could be different kind of servings. Giving lecture is a serving, making prasadam is a service, doing book distribution is a service, in the temple, cleaning temple is a service, deity worship is a service, making garlands for the deities, making dresses for the deities, they are just checking. There was another friend of mine who is a doctor. He used to come around every Sunday, sit on one side, and everybody knew that he's a medical doctor and he will offer his time. And he used to say, this is my service, but I will just give the free advices to anyone who would come during those times. And that was his service. And that was a devotional service. He used to do it for the devotees. Most of the people who come in the temple are devotees, especially those who would know. And he was open his arm and just shared everything he has for the devotees. That was his devotional service. As we have discussed in the previous mantra, mantra 4, that the Srila Prabhupada said that the devotional service is very unique. It's voluntary and it's very individual. I don't need to copy anyone else. Of course, if I can copy, that's not bad. If somebody sings and I think I can also sing, great. But if I can't sing and I will keep putting myself down that why don't I sing like him or her? No. Why don't I cook like him or her? No. Rather than that, what Srila Prabhupada said, what you want to do, what you can do. Rather than Srila Prabhupada asking, you do this, you do this, you do this. Srila Prabhupada did say that, but knowing that that person is good in that, that person cherishes and that person will excel in that. Right? And sometimes, like students, they say that I didn't know I could do it, but my teacher had faith in me. Because teacher could see what student can or could do. But students, of course, a lot of time they can't. And then they thank their teachers later, like the students, like the children, they thank their parents later. That what the parents used to say then, study, 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 take good care of your health. Right? That makes sense now. But then, oh, well, we always wanted to play video games, maybe. So we need to understand that Lord has contradictory potencies, thus proving he has inconceivable powers. Because in our material world, we cannot think that one person could be here and one person could be there. Of course, if we see the sun, sunlight is falling in London. At the same time, might be in India and in America, all over the world. And that's one reflection of. So, of course, Surya Dev is considered as one of the Devta in Vedic culture. But where sun gets his powers, so in Skanda Purana, in Padma Purana, it's been mentioned. From where? From the Lord. Those are not his own personal energies. He gets those powers. This is what Indra says, who's the leader of all. This is what Pavan said it. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that the whole body has, so all the senses, like the sun is there, sun is required in the eyes. A lot of times, so the medical practitioner, they say, oh, we can't, everything is good in the eyes. We can't see why they are not working. This is the limit of the science. A lot of time it happens. The doctors say, well, we have tried everything we could do. We can't find the reason. What our Shastra says that even, so we have the eyeball, right? And then behind eyeball, the functionality is there, right? So there are two things. One is gross, one is subtle. The gross is there, the sense organ is there. The eye is there. Eye got to be there. If eye is not there, then it doesn't really matter if the functionality is there at the back. But if eye is there, the functionality at the back is not there, then eye will not work. Similarly, if the washing machine is there, the washing machine is working, but it's not plugged in the power. The electricity is not coming at the back. Doesn't really matter how great the washing machine is or how great the device is. The power is not coming. But let's say the power is coming, but the machine is not good. We need both, right? But let's say we have both. They won't work itself. We need the external force. We need somebody to operate that washing machine. Similarly, in our body, for each and every single organ, and Srimad Bhagavatam, and this is the beauty of Vedic Shastras, things which were mentioned 5,000 years ago, like the development of the child in the womb of the mother, that's been given in Bhagavatam 5,000 years back, even more than that, but at least 5,000 years we can easily say, right? It's there. Science has just developed like 250 years back. For 5,000 years, it has been there. And nothing there in the Shastras which has been proven wrong. And this is also there, that each and every sense of the human being, not only that we need the external organ, not only that we need the internal functionality behind it, there is a demigod. And that's why it says that all the demigods, they are in us. All Devi, Devta, they are in us, in the human body. Why? Because they are. Bhagavatam says each of the senses is governed and controlled by one of the demigods. So for example, the Lord Sun is there. In the hand, I think Indra is there. Like if the sun god will say, I don't want to, because sun is upset for some reason from someone, then the eyeball could be there, the functionality could be there, the eye will not work. Our Shastras explain it, but the medical science won't understand because it's translogical for them. It's translogical for them. Now that's the reason we need to read the Shastras and need to read the Shastras under the expert guidance of Acharyas like Srila Prabhupada ji, senior devotees like Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji, Radhesham Prabhuji, who has put together this. And you see, in one slide, the whole verse and the whole purport. What are the contradictions? That Lord walk, but does not walk. Lord is near, Lord is far. Lord is within, Lord is outside. It's hard for us to understand. Who cannot understand the contradictions? Foolish. So Bhagavad Gita 9:11, Krishna says, those who, so Krishna says, Antakale. There are many different verses, but one particular one where Krishna says, those foolish, they will not understand me. Right? They are atheists. They don't. And there are many other examples there. Of course, imperfect vision. Like I always say, without glasses, I can't even see. But even with the perfect senses, corrected senses, we can't see everything. We have a limit how far we can see, how far we can hear, what frequency, what wavelength we can hear. So can we trust our senses all the time? No, we can't. Who can understand the contradictions? Now the degree of surrender, 411 in Bhagavad Gita. Who surrenders to Krishna, to acharyas, to seniors, they understand. What does that mean? That doesn't understand that we accept everything illogical. No, take illogical, but then try to understand the context. And as I said, from personal experience, I can say the example I have given, that if you read here, you read there, it's contradictory, but when you read the whole, then you know how it comes into picture. And then of course, senior, when we start devotional service, example of Prahlad Maharaj, the Lord could appear right at the front of you, like Narasimhadev appeared at the front of Prahlad. Yeah. And then how to understand the contradiction? Who can understand and how can understand? Now, how greatly it has been explained. How can understand? Walk and does not walk. But Supreme Lord is there. He's personal. He's a personal Lord who can walk, but he's also impersonal, which means he has all his energies. Like the example of sun we have seen, everything is because of the energies of the Lord. So Lord doesn't need to walk, Lord's energy will walk. And these days we have many things like that. We have Alexa, we have smartphones. We don't need to do anything. We just give the verbal, vocal, and the robot will start walking. Now, who made that robot walk? We did it. But I didn't move. My energy, my voice made it move. So we can understand. It's inconceivable for us. Inconceivable potency. But at the same time, walk, but does not walk. Is far and is near. In the spiritual world, Krishna is in what we call Adhyatmik Jagat, the spiritual world, which is beyond material world. But then could be also nearby, right? As in the form of Paramatma. And then Narasimha Dev is there. Whenever a devotee, pure devotee will ask, Krishna says, whenever my devotee needs me, I come for the protection. So it's very, very near. It says Chaitya Guru. We just think about it, Krishna is there. Krishna is there within us. We don't really need to shout. Of course, we can do it. A child can shout for the mother or the father, but the parents know it's the time, within and without. As he said, we have seen chapter 11, Virata Rupa. Everything is in Krishna. Krishna shows that universal form to Arjun, that everything is there within Krishna. Krishna showed the whole Prithvi, whole Brahmand to Mother Yashoda in his mouth. But again, everything is there in the form, energy. So Krishna has maintained this in the form of his energy. And this is also, we discussed, there are three different energies: internal energy, spiritual world, material energy. We call material energy, which is Maya, this whole material world. And then we are marginal energy. We could be internal, we could be external. We could be spiritual, we could be material. This is how, that's why we are called Tataksh, marginal. Wherever we want, we can decide to go. So this is one of those words through which we can understand Krishna, and we can understand. So it's hard. We can understand that it's hard to understand Krishna. And this is one of the messages in these two verses, mantra 4 and mantra 5. So these are the 18 mantras we will see, and we will go further. Now there's a, right, okay, I'm 1 minute past, but I would like to make an announcement that next Saturday, we are traveling to Bharatvarsh, to India, and we will be there for roughly 2 months. So unfortunately, I will not able to serve you through these sessions. The reason being, it will be in afternoon, and most of the weekends will be visiting dhams. So we are going to Vrindavan, we are going to Mathura, we are going to Dwarka, Puri, Ayodhya, Banaras. So all the weekends will be in the dham. And this session actually at that time is in the middle. So it's like 9:30 there, and it's 2:30 there. So if it's in the morning, might able to do it before starting the day, but in the middle might not be possible. So I would humbly like to request you to take a break maybe of 2 months, July and August, and I will be back on first week of September. But I will post you more in the WhatsApp group. I will definitely miss your association. I will be available on my WhatsApp. So feel free to be in association, and we can discuss everything. But this time, I might not be able to do. If there is any other time, any other devotee would like to suggest, feel free. And I can, if I can serve in any form or shape, it will be my pleasure. But whenever we resume back from mantra 6, and we will go further in Shri Īśopaniṣad. That. Thank you so much with your presence, your association. Look forward to see you again very soon. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Have a great journey and safe journey.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Ajayji. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Dat Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gurudev Maharaj ki jai, Samved Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Jai Jai Shri Radha. Hare Krishna, everyone. Take good care of yourself. Be in Krishna consciousness. Look forward to see you very soon.